right, so here we are, week 3 already, Steve. Season really flies by, doesn't it? So let's talk a little bit about last week. I thought last week was a good week in general. I think we learned a lot more about these teams, and a lot of the teams are kind of coming into perspective of what they really are. I
thought we gave a lot of winners. You know, if you take out the first 10 minutes of the Homer piece of talking about the Eagles games and the Rams, I mean, I clearly like the Eagles and they lost.
That was a total Homer take.
But if you take that out, I was pretty much accurate on everything I said. You were very accurate on everything you said.
My big miss, Derrick Henry, totally let me down.
Yeah.
Big man came up small last week.
There was a couple contradictions between us where I think I proved to be right last week.
That's right.
Atlanta covered.
But I think I went back and I looked at the schedule real quick, so I could be wrong on this, but I feel like the favorites won in all but maybe the Saints game last week. Not to say they all covered, but they all won.
Yeah, and that was a home dog, so that was a live action on Monday night.
So I actually played a 13-team teaser last week, and I missed by 1 on Jacksonville.
Yeah, I thought you had it.
Well, I was actually surprised because when I went and I checked the card, I thought I had missed on more. And when I realized it was just Jacksonville, it was kind of devastating by 1.5 points because it was -4.
Jacksonville got us again. They got us week 1 on the survivor pool.
And they were up in that game too. And they let them back in. And I was actually very excited to actually get to see Jacksonville play last night because they've kind of not come out the way that I expected them to on the season. And then what did we learn last night? Really nothing. They look like the team that we thought they were going to be.
No, yes. Last night was definitely a Dolphins play for us. I was really hot on the Dolphins. I still am. But them going into the game at 0-2 versus Jacksonville being 1-1, who we think is on the tank. They're clearly trying to win the game, but they had Chark out, who's Gardner Minshew's top receiving option. So we took the points again at home.
Always take the points on Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, it
was definitely Fitzmagic last night.
But let's get on to the games we can impact in the future to help people out here.
All right, so moving on to week 3, we're going to pretty much talk about all the games on the card here. Some we'll do quicker than others. But let's start with Las Vegas at New England. Now, Vegas is 2-0. They beat the Saints last week. So I guess the public is kind of on Las Vegas. And I was kind of on Las Vegas until we talked about it last night. And you kind of convinced me or pushed me over onto the New England side. So I think kind of everybody knows this probably, but the one thing that Belichick will do is take away the biggest threat on the other team. And that was definitely Darren Waller last week and in general. So if Belichick takes out Waller, will Las Vegas really be able to win in New England? I think Cam Newton looked good.
Well, I think Waller's a little banged up, so it might be questionable that he's still going to play. He'll probably end up playing. So if he doesn't play, then it makes it even that much worse. But to your point that we were talking about, if you watch that Saints game, if you take Waller out of that equation, you know that the Raiders probably don't win that game, and they probably look like a completely different team because he was carrying them the whole time. Even started drawing a lot of coverage, so he opened it up for some other guys. But
I think they had a lot of penalties too that they benefited from, or the Saints had a lot of penalties.
A lot of them were drawn for pass interference on throws to Waller. So to your point, if Belichick takes him out, where are they going to go? So they got a running game.
I think Ruggs is out too. I think he's officially out.
Yeah, New England's the play here, especially if it stays under a touchdown. It opened at 6.5 and it's going down to 5.5. But I think people are giving too much credit to the circumstances of, I almost said Vegas, Oakland, Vegas win last week, right? You got the Saints coming off on the road on Monday night.
I think people forget that Drew Brees on the road is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially Drew Brees on the road without his number one option, Michael Thomas. I think a lot of people overlooked that fact that he wasn't playing. So this should be a different. I look for this to be a different story for the Raiders.
And I think Belichick's stats games after a loss is pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
remember they just came off the loss to Seattle. So the ebb and flows of the season, you look for them to turn it around, not lose 2 in a row.
And then there was that photo of him looking like all disheveled. He's been in the war room preparing for this week. I
actually forgot our discussion from yesterday on this game because we didn't talk about much, but we did talk about this game. And I like, now that we're talking about it, I like New England as a play.
I do too. All right. The LA Rams going into Buffalo. Now, this is one we probably disagree on, but I'll let you talk first about it.
Okay. This is a play for me. I like Buffalo. They're both 2-0. The Rams went into Philadelphia and won handily. But I think from watching that game, there was a lot of, not trickery per se, but a lot of line movement with the Eagles playing man-to-man defense. They didn't stay with the coverages. So they ran a lot of patterns that were across the field.
Well, that's what McVay does.
Yeah, well,
a lot of pre-snap
the Eagles were clearly not prepared, and with a new look on defense, they have some work to do, and hopefully they gel. But Buffalo, my point is Buffalo's defense is rock solid. They are not going to fall for a lot of this misdirection and line movement pre-snap that the Eagles did, and they're up in Buffalo. The line started at 3; it's down to 2.5 and 2 in places. So you could look at a line that's Buffalo at home. Could get as low as a pick 'em, but maybe just a point. I would look anywhere under 3 to take Buffalo.
All right. I mean, this is a game I probably wouldn't play, but I just think that Buffalo, if you look at, I mean, they look great in their first 2 games, but they also played the Jets and the Dolphins. So I don't know how much
Goff struggles against good defenses that are playing well, that are prepared. He always struggles against the good defenses, and Buffalo at home plays pretty strong defense. So I hope I'm right here. It's interconference, so you could see where the Rams having to come all the way across the country into Buffalo might not be as motivated on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rams have looked good this year. They didn't look good last year, so I think Sean McVay is, trying out some new things this year and really, working on the offense. So I would have to take the Rams there.
You like the Rams? All right. So we're disagreeing there. We'll see what happens.
All right. And I guess the next game we're also going to disagree on. So this one is Houston going into Pittsburgh. And
I know you're a big Ben Roethlisberger
Big
person.
Ben at home. I like him. I might play him in FanDuel this week too with Ben as my quarterback.
Yeah, and the story there is the defense, right? Their defense is looking a lot better. I mean, they were good last year, but they're looking like they had a little more time together and they're gelling.
Yeah, I mean, this play for me is probably more a play against Houston than it is a play for Pittsburgh, because I think Houston just looks terrible. And we talked about it before. And I'm probably going to say it every freaking week, but I just think Houston without DeAndre Hopkins, it's just not the same. Will Fuller left the game last week. He's not on the injury report this week, but you never know if he's going to make it through a whole game. Kenny Stills was on the injury report with an illness. You don't know if he's going to play. So I just don't think it sets up well for Houston.
For me, I was high on Houston coming into the season. You have to take some things into account. Who have they played? They're 0-2, right?
Yeah, they had a tough schedule. I get that. But
they've played the 2 toughest teams from last year, bar none, no argument, right? They played the Chiefs and they played Baltimore. So you couldn't get it harder than that. So they've had to gel without DeAndre Hopkins against some pretty stiff competition. So now they come into Pittsburgh, which I hesitate to even think about going against Pittsburgh at home. That's not how you make a living, going against Pittsburgh at home. But in this scenario, Pittsburgh, they opened up at 6. The public's bet it down to 4. I think anything outside 3 is a bonus here, because to me, it's a 3-point game. And I look to Houston really to maybe win this game straight up, because they're 0-2. They need to get a win. Steelers are 2-0. When you look at kind of the balance of powers, this might be one of those games where you just make it as simple as they're desperate for a win. And are the Steelers going to end up being 13-3 this year? I doubt it.
All right. Well, we'll see.
They don't look like world beaters. They look good, and I'm high on them. But again, I'm hesitant to go against Pittsburgh, but I think this is a play for Houston. You like Pittsburgh?
I do. I definitely like Pittsburgh there.
Why?
Like I said, it's more a play against Houston than it is a play for Pittsburgh.
All right.
I just think Houston is
You know how
terrible.
you feel
I think
about Bill O'Brien?
Bill O'Brien is an idiot, and I just don't see it. I thought that in the previous games there would be a little more competitive, and it really wasn't. I mean, they really weren't competitive in those games.
It's been disappointing.
There wasn't even garbage time production.
I know it's been disappointing, but this is one for me. I'm hoping this is a situation where they need to get their offense together with again, they got a new running back in David Johnson. There's a big question mark because he was the best running back. If you remember a couple of years ago, he was the number 1 pick in the fantasy draft, David, for probably 2 years in a row. Then he got hurt. So it usually takes about 1.5 years to come back from a knee injury. This does set up for him to be successful. So I'm waiting for him to possibly break out. But how many eggs can you put in the basket of David Johnson, who hasn't been relevant in 2 years, right? You lose their number 1 option in DeAndre Hopkins. I get where you're coming from, but I just think that if you're going to take the points here, especially if you're getting more than 3, it's a 3-point game. Take Houston plus the points.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
All right, let's move on.
Next game is San Fran at the Giants. And San Fran dealing with a lot of injuries. They're without Garoppolo. They're without Richard Sherman. They're without Bosa. So, and they're going back. Apparently, there was some issues. They were at the same, MetLife Stadium?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about injuries in this game, how about Saquon Barkley? Bye-bye for the rest of the season. Like, okay, Giants are done.
I don't know that Saquon Barkley means the Giants are done.
Wow.
Now, I mean,
they've struggled and Saquon has struggled. So the hope is that he would get better to be able to open the offense up. Now you take him out and the hope that he would start hitting on all cylinders to open up everything in the passing game. That's gone now. So people are going to be able to focus on the pass. Who did they sign? Devontae Freeman from the Atlanta Falcons, who was sitting out there on the waivers. Nobody wanted him. So, I know a lot of people jumped on fantasy. That was a big pickup this week since he got signed. And it looks like he is going to get an opportunity to get snaps right away. But it seems like fool's gold if this guy's been sitting out and hasn't really been working out. We'll see.
Well, I think he wanted too much money. I think that was the problem. A couple teams tried to sign him.
You're kind of big on on him, aren't you?
I mean, I don't know how much the injury and stuff, but I mean, he was a solid player back, a few years ago with Atlanta. I mean, if he could be that guy again, I mean, he can catch the ball, he can run it out of the backfield. So
talking about some old running backs the last 2 segments.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be a difference maker this week. But I think you're not giving the Giants enough credit. I mean, we watched their first game against Pittsburgh and they looked pretty good. I mean, up against the Pittsburgh defense, and their defense looked pretty good.
Well, the line opened at 6.5. San Fran favored and is now down in the 3.5.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's because of all the injuries. I mean, you got Nick Mullins as the starting quarterback for San Fran.
You still have no Deebo Samuel. So this is a flash for those of you who are playing fantasy football. Deebo Samuel is supposed to come back next week. So if you still have him out on your waiver wire, now it's probably time to get him before your waiver wire cuts off for this week, because he's going to be a top target next week when everybody realizes he's coming back. Initial reports in the beginning of the season was that he may be out for 10 weeks. So it definitely impacted his draft status. And looking back at my leagues that I'm playing in, he was sitting on all the waiver wires. So I went in Thursday in one league, Wednesday in all the others, and picked him up. But that would be a good spot for next week if you have room to stash a guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think
Deebo Samuel.
I like the Giants to at least stay in it. I don't know if I would expect it to be like a 3-point game, but
yeah, I would not touch this game.
Into the Giants.
I would not touch this game with a 10-foot pole, but it's just too many injuries, too many question marks. I could see it going either way. I guess in this situation, if you had to go, I would take the home team that's getting the points, right?
Home dog.
Which is the Giants. So,
all right. So do we agree or disagree there?
I mean, if I had to, I would go Giants, but I'm not going to.
I'm talking myself into the Giants more and more.
I didn't play it on my teaser card.
I thought Daniel Jones looked good in that first game. And I like Slayton this week, especially without Richard Sherman on the field.
All right, we'll see.
All right, next game, Tennessee at Minnesota. And I still love the Titans. I still love Derrick Henry. I'm going to go back to him this week.
I was going to say your love affair continues with Derrick Henry. And he kind of let us down last week because of how many yards did he have? About 80?
Like 84.
Yeah. A lot of his over totals were what I saw was 95.
95. It was higher than that.
In the hundreds?
Yeah, it was like 115.
Yeah, whatever it was, I took it and it lost.
I know. I don't play a lot of prop bets, but I did. I put all my money in my FanDuel sportsbook account on him, and he let me down. But against Minnesota has looked like crap. They're 0-2. Time of possession in these games, I had to check week 2. And again, it was like 40 minutes to 20 minutes, the time that they have the ball. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm definitely taking the Titans. I'll take them all day at -2.5.
All right, when I was looking at this game, I was thinking Titans because I kind of like them, and who doesn't after the playoff performance last year. But you try to figure out what Minnesota's doing. They were on the road last week. They looked horrible. Would they play Indy? They lost by a bunch of points. So you tend to say, okay, Tennessee, this looks like a no-brainer. But I would say be careful in this game. And as much as I wouldn't want to go against Tennessee at this point, because their run game looks good, and who doesn't like Derrick Henry? This is Minnesota coming off an embarrassing loss. Minnesota's what, 0-2? So this is a good scenario of records maybe evening out. Vikings are 0-2, right? They're tied with the Lions. Do you really? I know they've played bad, but do you really put them in the same category as the Lions? I think they're a class below. So you'd think the Vikings would get on the board with a win. And then you're playing Tennessee, who, even though, everybody's goo goo gaga on Tennessee, how good are they really? I mean, their quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. Well, here's the scenario.
It's Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, my God. So anyway, did you just make that one up, or is that going around?
No, I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't.
That's funny. My point is if you take away the run, he's not going to lead with the pass. He needs to set up the pass with the run.
No, they came out firing last week. They had like a big pass to Jonnu Smith. 3 plays they were down the field on the first drive last week.
So the Titans are 2-0 in the AFC South. The Colts are 1-1. They play Sunday. The Jaguars already played this week. They're 1-2, and the Texans are 0-2. So even if the Texans win, they go to 0-2, and the Colts win, they'll be 2-1. The Titans sitting at 2-0. I mean, are they going to break out and run away with this division?
They're going to run away with it.
So I'm probably going too far because I don't like Minnesota enough that I'm going to probably take them. But this is probably put in the category. If I had to choose, I'd probably go Minnesota.
All right.
Well, it looks like a trap. Again, home dog.
No, I don't feel like it's a trap. I feel like the coach will have them prepared to play, even though they're playing a team that maybe they, think they can easily beat. So I don't worry about that. And like you said, if they win this game, then they're on the way to run away with the division. And why wouldn't they want to put themselves in that position?
I guess the question is, can Dalvin Cook run on Tennessee's defense?
Well, I mean, here's my question. If I'm a coach and I'm playing against the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to load the box. I'm going to stop Cook, and I'm going to make Kirk Cousins throw it. Because Kirk Cousins, when he gets in that situation, he sucks. Well, and who's he throwing it to?
Kirk Cousins at home is a different quarterback than Kirk Cousins on the road, especially in that dome. So don't forget that one too. You get kind of a Jekyll and Hyde sometimes.
No, I don't
so
agree
far
with that.
we got Hyde both times, but
when you
Jekyll I think is coming this week.
When you got to put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands and make him win the game for you, it never goes well.
Who's the second receiver in Minnesota?
Exactly. Who is it? And Adam Thielen is a slot receiver. That's your number one.
Well, they're definitely missing Diggs.
So that's another situation. The same thing as the Texans. You trade away that, down the field threat, and then the whole field collapses.
All right, we talked about enough of that game.
All right, next one, Washington at Cleveland.
All right, so I'm going to shock on this one. I know you're not too heavy on this game, but I personally, the more and more I think about this game this week, I really like Washington, and I'm going to tell you why. So first of all, I'm not really that sold on Cleveland. Who really can be? I mean, it's Cleveland. And if you see the way they played against Baltimore week 1, Baltimore was in their backfield all day. And Mayfield was running around with his head chopped off, throwing balls all around, throwing them away. Really didn't look good. He looked like a rookie quarterback. So from my standpoint, Washington's strength here is their defensive line. They're going to be in the backfield against Cleveland. I think they're going to be able to force some turnovers or at least get into Baker Mayfield's head where He's not going to be able to see over these massive guys. So I think that Washington's defense could shake Baker Mayfield into a couple turnovers that could cost them the game. I would say take the points. They're getting 5.5 opening line. It's now up to 7. People I think Cleveland's going to be a popular pick here. So I think you take the points. I would even look, I wouldn't go crazy, but I would even look at the money line for Washington to win, the Washington football team to win straight up. They're getting plus 270, plus 280 odds I'm seeing online right now. So I think if you invest $100, if you can get the money line down to win 280, that's probably a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel confident in saying that Cleveland's going to win this game. I did put them on my card this week, and it's probably the one I'm a little nervous about. I guess my only thing is I just don't trust the Washington offense. Like, I agree with you that if they get pressure on Mayfield, it's not going to be a good day for him. But I just don't trust their ability to move the ball either.
I think you take the under here too. I mean, I'm agreeing as you're talking. I'm agreeing with you, and I'm thinking that this is in that point. Washington's not going to be able to do too much. It's going to be in the teens, maybe a 19-15 score here.
And one thing I did want to mention, going back to the last game, that actually has gone, the over-under, it's gone up. But with Minnesota at the pace that they play, if Tennessee can get a lead and they, just run the ball, that could be a good actual underplay on that one too, especially if it's all the way up to 49.5.
Yeah, so we're opposite there too. Because you like Tennessee, I kind of like Minnesota, so I'm kind of thinking the over there because Minnesota's going to have to score points to win this game.
But all right, so I guess we can move on to the next game, which happens to be the battle of 2-0-2 teams. The Cincinnati Bengals going into Philadelphia, who is dead last in offense, according to the Football Outsider stats, which I was looking at yesterday. So your
rubbing that one in, huh?
Your franchise quarterback has some work to do there. So Steve, who's your pick on this game?
Well, I mean, it's no doubt I'm going to stick and live and die with the Eagles, but I think you have to take them here because they as bad as they've looked over the first 2 weeks, I just think that the rookie quarterback should get shaken enough by the schemes that the Eagles will run. Hopefully another week they'll get a little more congealed. I look for them to put more pressure. A lot of times they sit back and they don't blitz. I think you have to go against Burrows here and send odd man rushes. You got to take some chances and send some of the guys in the backfield. Send a safety, send a corner blitz. Try to force a turnover. I think that Cincinnati, they're looking better, but this is not the spot for them. The Philadelphia Eagles are desperate. If they lose here, their season's done.
That's my point.
Cash it in 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose to the Bengals in week 3 when you're already 0-2, that's pretty bad. You can run on Cincinnati. We saw that last week with the Browns. I mean, they ran all over them. So hopefully Miles Sanders stays on the field for the full game. And I can fire him up.
Miles Sanders came back last week, right? And he even said, I didn't have a preseason, So he first drive, he put the ball on the carpet, turned it over. That was really what led to the start of the downfall against the Rams. But I look for all these guys. Miles Sanders, you got Lane Johnson coming back. We played last week, but he should be another week stronger. Get that offensive line a little bit more playing time now that you have Jason Peters locked in.
I'm going to look for something out of Deshaun Jackson this week too.
So Deshaun's a good sleeper play, I think, especially for fantasy because
everybody's forgot about him.
Well, Jalen Reagor's hurt, and I've hesitated over the last 2 weeks to pull this name out. But if you're looking for a cheap option, especially if you play FanDuel, you're looking for a cheap receiver to get some points so that you can spend money elsewhere. Greg Ward Jr. is a good option. He's going to be probably less than $5,000 to get on your roster, maybe $4,800. I haven't checked it for this week, but you have Reagor out. You have no Alshon Jeffries. He's not back yet. You only have Deshaun, and they've been working load management. So you have Hightower as a rookie last year. Not many other receivers there as options. They're going to look for the tight ends, obviously. But Greg Ward Jr. could be a guy who could get like 80 yards, 90 yards, and a touchdown, get some points.
Well, I'm hoping that Philly goes up and just runs the ball a little bit against the Bengals.
What's the key? If they can't run the ball, they're done. Like they need to help Carson Wentz. He looks like he's regressed. So a lot of this stuff, you try to make the excuse because the lack of training camp and time that they've had. But you look around the league and there's a lot of offenses out there that look pretty sharp. So you can't really give a guy too many excuses, especially as we head into week 3.
And I owe you $20, I think, from last week because I don't think Aaron Donald registered a sack.
Aaron Donald did not register a sack. And Akeem Veal, just so you know, none of the Rams got a sack. There was not like 4 sacks in that game. We had a little conversation about that earlier.
Really? Okay.
Shout out to Akeem and the Carolina Panthers. Sorry about CMC.
All right. So I guess we're both on Philadelphia there. And then next game up is Chicago at Atlanta. And
wait, you like Philadelphia? Okay, I didn't know that.
I mean,
thought you were going to hate on them again this week.
No, I didn't touch that game last week because I didn't. But I mean, if you guys can't beat,
I got you on that Aaron Donald stat that he played him 3 times without a sack and he wasn't going to get a sack. I think I scared you.
If you guys can't beat the Bengals, then you're done.
That was pretty much the only game I talked about that was bad advice last week.
Such a homer take.
If we could have just edited the first 10 minutes out of the podcast last week, that would have been perfect.
All right.
I actually would have looked like I knew what I was talking about.
Moving on.
Let's do it. Chicago, Atlanta.
Here's your next chance because you're in love with the Falcons too this year. Another 0-2 team.
Well, listen, it's funny
all
because
the teams
we're talking.
That you like are 0-2. By the way,
we were
the Texans, the Falcons, the Eagles.
Well, the way I look at it is they won last week. I don't care that they blew the lead. They still covered, so that's all I cared about. So we were talking about it like maybe Monday or Tuesday, and you were almost talking as if that was a bad pick because the Cowboys came back and won. But might I remind you that they were getting points. So Atlanta was the play there. That's a winner.
You're correct.
You lost that one.
But, I mean, they still kind of lost the game. I mean, they had like 3 turnovers and then somehow they get beat by a point on an onside kick.
Oh, yeah. It's just, it's Leon Lett all over again, right? For you Cowboys fans who are all joyous thinking you're going to the Super Bowl again just because you beat the Falcons who can't cover anybody. We'll see how they do this week against Seattle, a real team. But I can't really talk too much trash because the Eagles look so bad.
So now apparently Julio Jones might be out of this game. Well,
you have Ridley, right? And one of the fantasy impacts was the tight end that they had come over from Baltimore, right? Who showed up last week and got a touchdown. Hurst. So, I think that there's other weapons. Julio's a big loss, but we're talking Chicago, right? So here's another reason why.
2-0.
Chicago's 2-0, right? Atlanta's 0-2. Atlanta's playing at home. It just lines up for Atlanta to win this game.
I mean, Atlanta has too much
and flows. We'll talk about the ebbs and flows of the season.
They have too much talent on their team to be 0-2. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is that great of a quarterback to be 2-0, but I just don't trust the Falcons until I see them actually pull out a victory.
It's hard to get too cocky about them because of the way that they didn't really show up against Seattle when you were looking for them to come out hot for this year. And then they blow that lead where they just sit back on the onside kick. I don't even want to go into that, but there's tons of things from last week's game where you could point to the reason why.
And I'm not sure about Gurley now. I don't know. He didn't really have much play last week. They haven't used him as a receiver at all, which I'm not really sure what that's all about. But the other guy got a lot of run in that game.
It's going to be Matt Ryan, Ridley, and the tight end.
I worry. I mean, I would probably lean the Falcons in this game if Julio plays, but if Julio's out, I think that means Ridley gets more coverage, and I don't trust it at all.
I think, it's a good point. You might have a chance of having some semblance of a running game if Julio's in because there's more coverage that you have to put into the secondary. You maybe free up a body in the box so that Gurley could get going. So that's going to hurt. But as it stands, and I think that Gurley's going to struggle. So it's going to have to be Matt Ryan. I'm not really too scared of Chicago. They're a week 2-0. They beat the Lions. Who did they beat last week? They beat the Lions. They came back. They beat the Giants, right? It was the Giants last week when Saquon got hurt. So the Giants stink. Clearly, they're 0-2. The Lions are 0-2. The Bears have beat nobody. Atlanta,
neither
at
have
least.
The Falcons.
So this is the way I look at it. Well, Chicago has a good defense. So anything can happen with the defense. But Atlanta's offense, I think, is elite. Even without Julio, they're pretty damn strong. So I think they'll be able to move the ball enough at home and to keep Trubisky out of the end zone to win this game. I do like if you look at the line movement, it opened at 3.5 and it's crept down to 3. If you can get that inside 3, this would be a perfect teaser. I think you can guarantee the tease if you can get it to 3.
Yeah, I'm not touching that at all.
Move on?
All right, next game, Jets at Indy. And I don't know that there's too much to say about this other than the Jets suck. Adam Gase sucks. And I want to know which coach loses their job first. Is it going to be Bill O'Brien, Dan Quinn, or Adam Gase?
I think Gase is out the door for sure. But I would say the only thing I had to add about this game, it started at 7, Indianapolis favorite.
It's gone up to 11.5. I mean, I wouldn't touch it at 11.5.
Well, this is the biggest line on the card. So we haven't forgot the survivor pool, but this is the first game we've come to that I would consider using a survivor play on Indianapolis against the Jets. I think
tried that week 1 against the Jags, didn't work out so well.
Here I'm shuffling a little bit because Gardner Minshew obviously looks like he's not trying to tank the season. So I think the Jets are the one that are tanking. Coming in, I thought the 2 worst teams were going to be Jaguars and the Jets. So the Jaguars look like they have a little bit of fight in them. I think the Jets, Le'Veon Bell, out.
He's out. I think Crowder's out.
Yeah, I think there's a failure of leadership in Adam Gase. And on the road with Indianapolis, hopefully, as they progressed last week and looked really good against Minnesota, they continue that trend. I would look for them. You probably have to tease it to be comfortable, but I think if you're going, you got to give up the points and go against the Jets. This is a strong play for Survivor. The only thing I will add is that this is probably going to be the number 1 play for Survivor. People taking Indianapolis. So you know what happens in Survivor pool when everybody jumps on one team. You got to be weary about that upset that you're not seeing happen. But it's the Jets. They're horrible. I'd be shocked if they won.
Jonathan Taylor as a fantasy play.
How about the next game is Carolina at the Chargers?
Well, so to your point, and I guess you'll talk about this, but if you're looking for the contrarian survivor pick, this would probably be a good one based on what your feel of the game is.
Yeah, so I would definitely look at this next game, Carolina at Chargers, for survivor pick too. And this would be the tricky one if you want to get a little crazy because you don't really want to use the Chargers. They're a little bit going to be a little bit unpredictable. I don't see them going into lead for the division when we're halfway through the season. Yeah, this is definitely a team that you'd like to get a win early and move on and save one of your better teams for later in the pool. So I would definitely consider Chargers. That's probably where I'll go. Carolina and CMC hurt.
How is that? Is that line really -6.5 on the Chargers?
Yeah, it is. Chargers are at home. They're Carolina's number 1 offensive weapon, where the whole game plan is built around is out, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I get that,
Why
but
is that a shocker?
Let me ask you this because,
Why is that a shocker? Do you think it should be higher?
Because the Chargers, what's their record?
The Chargers?
Yeah.
The Chargers
should be
1-1.
Who did they beat week 1 then? They lost last week.
Chargers are 1-1. They lost last week to the Chiefs. They beat Denver. Is that who they played?
I don't know. That just seems high with a rookie quarterback.
They beat the Panthers.
With a rookie quarterback. They didn't beat the Panthers. They just they're playing the Panthers. All right, moving on.
Schedule's dumb. The Bengals. 16-13.
Yeah,
week 1. It was Joe Burrow's first game. So they went into Cincinnati. They didn't look that strong.
That was Tyrod Taylor. But let me ask you this, because last week, obviously, it was supposed to be Tyrod Taylor that started the game. And he got his lung punctured right before the game started. So
was he getting hit in the pregame drills?
Oh, you didn't hear that?
What happened?
The doctor was giving him like a pain injection for something, I guess, with his back, and he accidentally
punctured his lung.
Yeah.
Jesus, fire the medical staff.
True story. But so the rookie.
Does nobody really care because it's Tyrod Taylor? Like, what if they did that to Tom Brady?
No, I don't know. Maybe the doctor got fired, but
sounds like the Philadelphia Eagles medical staff.
But regardless, so Justin Herbert comes in.
Well, I know he looked really good, and they committed to Taylor regardless.
Can I ask my question? Do you think there was any benefit to him because he didn't know he was starting this game? So for a rookie,
no pressure
going into your first NFL start, you don't have that time to think about it. Like you're just kind of thrown into action.
It's a tough one because he's not getting the reps either beforehand. So I think you could go either way.
Number two, Kansas City wasn't preparing for Justin Herbert. They were preparing for Tyrod Taylor. So do you think from that perspective it benefited him at all?
Definitely. Because you don't have any tape, you don't know what's coming at you, and apparently he's accurate and he throw the ball over the field. So, you'd probably get into more base defenses of nickels and dimes in early downs if you know the guy's got a hose and going to throw the ball over the field as opposed to getting in the base defense and still fighting against the run. So the book's a little bit written. Do we have some tape on this guy? It's definitely going to be harder once you get tape on the guy in NFL action. So I think he'll definitely benefit there, but clearly he's going to get the reps during practice coming into the week. So, he should be a little bit more prepared coming in. It's going to be tough for him to look better than what he did last week, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just surprised that that line is
almost got the Chiefs
that high. But I mean, I definitely would not take the Chargers at -6.5.
So you would take Carolina? You like,
I'm not going to touch the
game. Teddy Bridgewater.
But I think Bridgewater is fairly capable.
I mean, listen, these are two bad teams. So two bad teams play, take the points. So you might want to look at Carolina, but from a survivor play, they're not. I can't see how the Chargers are going to lose at home.
I mean, I kind of like that Herbert guy. I hope he does well, but I don't know what to expect. I mean, we'll learn a lot more after this game. We'll see what it's really made of.
There's better games on the card, right?
To put money on, yeah, definitely,
if you're
for sure.
Mess with that line. You could tease it down the Chargers. I would tease that down the Chargers, about to pick them, and then just have them win the game. You'll be fine.
All right. So next game is Detroit at Arizona. 0-2 versus 2-0. I like Arizona. I would take them at -5.5.
All right. So this one started at -3.5. Arizona at home against Detroit. It's up to 5.5. I see it jump to 6 in one place. So this is Friday night. Definitely has a chance to go 6 up to a touchdown. I feel like coming into this game, clearly Arizona beat San Francisco. They win last week against Washington. They look like the stronger team coming in. Detroit giving up the big lead to Chicago. They're 0-2.
I haven't really seen like the fight out of Detroit yet, though, either.
No, all the talk is that they're going to give up on Patricia and that they've given up in these games.
Matt Stafford in as my quarterback because has in the past at least been like a good garbage time quarterback.
He's racked up a lot of second half points, right?
Yeah, and that hasn't happened this year. Now Kenny Galladay's been out, but I don't know if you can attribute all of that to him. So
here's what I'm thinking about this game. So first look at this game, I think you clearly are like Arizona.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a game where everybody and their mother is going to be on Arizona. And when that happens, you go the other way.
Yeah, no, I could see that because I feel like some of these other games where you're like, it's so clear one team over the other. Like, I don't see any way that the freaking Jets beat the Colts.
Like anybody that's been watching football, they say, hey, Detroit's going to win this game against Arizona. You'd look at them and say, you're an idiot, right? Because they just look like they're horrible.
This is the one game where I could see Detroit pulling it out. I mean, they're not that bad. They're not as bad of a team as their record says.
Listen, you got when you start challenging the will of the players to fight for the coach, this thing only goes this goes hard one way or the other. It either goes straight down or straight up.
I don't think they like Patricia though. I mean, there's been some like negative like stuff that's come out about him and his like relationship with the players.
What, the defensive coach under Belichick is a jerk? That's a shocker.
I don't know.
I mean, he's probably got a lot of pressure, right? He hasn't done anything.
Yeah. I agree.
He should probably start with like a tailor, get some new clothes.
And I
He looks
guess,
like a
I don't know.
schmuck on the field, like he's a high school coach.
I guess you always got to like worry when you leave New England and you've had like success under Belichick. Like, are you going to be able to do it on your own?
Yeah. And there's a lot of, it goes either way, right? You got some guys that have been really successful. You got guys that fail and have to come back. So,
or you got guys like Josh McDaniel who take a job and then decide they don't want it. They'd rather stay there.
Well, he did take a job in Denver and failed, right? His first job was in Denver. I know he balked the second time that they were looking. He went to Denver, failed miserably, comes back to New England, tries to leave. They sell him as the heir apparent to Belichick when he has another job lined up. Well, was that with Detroit?
No, he took the job with the Colts.
Which
he was probably glad because
that's how Frank Wycheck got it.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably glad because he thought he was going to go and have Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck missed one season with injury and then up and retired. So, but all right, moving on. That was a total.
So I'd be weary of this game. I mean, I want to like Arizona. This is probably something that I feel I need till Sunday to really lock in. But I'm looking, the longer the week goes, I like the points in Detroit for no other reason than this is everybody line up on Arizona and watch them not cover. It'll be like a 3-point game.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, next game is Tampa Bay going into Denver. Denver is, I believe, without their quarterback. So it'll be Jeff Driscoll that starts. I assume he's already rolled out, but I can't be. I'm not 100% on that. But I definitely would take Tampa Bay here. Although I have my concerns about Tampa Bay long term, but we'll see what happens.
I don't really have that much concern long term. I have more short term concern as it is coming to Denver. A couple of the things coming into Denver that are negative is clearly the altitude that causes you to breathe.
I'm sure TB12 is prepared for altitude.
They got 10 other guys on that offense that are going to have to be prepared as well. So,
Gronk is on the TB12 plan, so he's prepared too.
What they say, you get in the 40s, it's a little harder to climb the mountain and get up there in the altitude. But anyway, hey, Tampa Bay, it worries me. Because they're coming in, they're getting less opportunity. Nice catch there. That's good hands.
Slowly, sliding out the whole time.
Maybe if Tampa Bay would put you at tight end, the tight end would have a reception. That was a good catch.
I don't know about this whole situation with Gronk.
That's the point, right? I mean, are they playing possum with Gronk? Is it some type of load management where they just want to make sure that they have him healthy through the year?
I don't think it is. I would like to think it is, but I don't think it is. Who the hell would
get Gronkowski out of retirement and use him as a blocking tight end and not throw him the ball? It's like something's going on. I get that Arians typically does not throw to the tight end, right?
True. But then why do you sign Gronk?
Exactly.
And Gronk did not come back to the NFL to be a blocker.
Well, you sign him because Tom Brady wants him. And if you make Tom Brady your quarterback, you pretty much give him whatever he wants.
But wasn't that the whole thing, is that Tom Brady wanted to go somewhere where you had the input in the offense? And I feel like it's fine to say that when you're in New England for 20 years and it's a relationship that develops naturally. But when you force it with a new team and a new coach, that maybe it doesn't play out so well. And I feel like that's what's kind of happening.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to step out on a limb. Tampa only wins this game if Gronk shows up into the offensive game plan. I feel like it's a rope-a-dope. I'm going to stick to the guns on Gronk. I think that this is a complete rope-a-dope, and they're just trying to get him into the flow and not game plan for him. And as soon as you see the negative articles coming out with Arians saying, we don't typically throw, he's old, he can't run by anybody, and Gronk playing possum like I'm a blocking tight end with the sarcastic attitude, right? Believe me, they're going to throw the ball this week.
I hope it is that situation. And I will say this, I'm officially taking him out of my lineup this week, so he probably will do something.
Exactly. There's much when it comes to that, making that change.
I know. Well, I'm going to put Jonnu Smith in this week and
you're definitely making a mistake. That was last week.
Take Gronk out. Well, it's the last 2 weeks, but yeah. I don't know that this is the week. If you're playing possum, is this where you finally break Gronk out when you're playing the Denver Broncos with a backup quarterback? I don't think so.
Listen, a lot of this bravado is wishful thinking. because I've just backed him up so much. Like I'm in a fantasy league. I drafted him in the 5th round. I got Lambasted. It's my college buddies. I'm still getting texts. I got one today busting my stones about Gronk and what a waste of a pick it was. So I got to stick with him. I adjusted him back to my bench because I have Gesicki, and I played him on Thursday night, but I can definitely run him back out as a flex. So as we're progressing into the week, I think I'm going to play him just because of that reason that you're sitting him. So let me know if you change your mind and play him. I'll put him back on the bench.
Can't do it. Can't take a goose egg. All right.
So not really a strong play there, right? I mean, I feel like we're not.
No, I think Tampa Bay wins by a touchdown.
Like, what's your strongest play that you've already? Let's pause for a second. We only have like 3 games left. What is your strongest play on the card here so far? Because I don't know that we've really said, "Hey, let's go." I like this team. At least you.
I would have to go with Tennessee.
All right, so Tennessee's your strongest play. If I look down here, I like Buffalo at home. Take the points. Mm-hmm. Small play on Houston. We're different. Houston, Pittsburgh. Last week, a lot of the times where we were headbutting, when I listened back to the podcast and the picks, I think I was right on most of the ones where we were contradicting. So the way this would usually work is it goes week to week. So, anywhere we're contradicting, we'll see how it plays out for this 2020. But you're probably right. So that would be Pittsburgh there. All
right. So what's your strongest play?
Well, I like.
Are you really going to go with Washington as your strongest play?
I like Washington getting the points, but it's not like my strongest play because it's Washington. I love Atlanta. I think that 2-0 thing. Chicago being 2-0, Atlanta being 0-2. I like Atlanta, but I could also see it being a 3-point game.
Can you see Atlanta winning by like 1?
Yeah, because who knows what the hell that team's doing out there. So, and no lead's going to be safe, clearly. So it's tough. Trubisky already brought him back, the Bears back against Detroit. Defenses are probably similar. So it's tough. I can't make that my best bet.
All right. Well, let's finish up the games.
I think we're coming to my best bet.
Okay. All right. Dallas at Seattle.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that you can give Seattle or Dallas enough points here because it's not going to go higher than like 10, right? It's only 5. And I see the double-digit win here.
This is the highest total on the board, opening at 55, and it's up to 57. I mean, this is a higher total than the Green Bay, New Orleans, Kansas City, Baltimore. That just doesn't seem right to me. But
so Seattle's 2-0 and Dallas is 1-1. It opened at 3.5. And it's now at 5. Seattle favored.
Seattle has definitely looked great in both their games. Dallas, I don't know. I mean, you can't give them too much credit for last week.
So here's what Vegas has to be thinking, right? The number is really high. It's 57. You have Russell Wilson, who's played unarguably, I think, but we'll say arguably the best in the NFL. He looks like the MVP. We're only 2 weeks in, right? So let's not get crazy. But after 2 weeks, he looks like the MVP. Dak, and he's been somebody I think Dak would look up to as a quarterback in the NFL. And I think Dak is going to be motivated to really look at it from a competitive spirit standpoint, that he wants to produce well going head to head against Russell Wilson. However, I mean, I think that's why the number's high, and I think, they'll score some points. I think at the end of the day, Seattle's offense is just going to be way too good for Dallas's defense. I see a double-digit win. Might go up to like 3 touchdowns, and then they kind of backdoor it down to like 10-9. But you're sitting here, the line's 5. It's not going to go up more than a touchdown by Sunday. I would take Seattle all day. I would also look for it's a good play for Seattle to do Survivor. Okay. You might want to save them for an easier matchup, but I don't think you're going to want to take them in any of the division matchups that they have. Seattle's going to be a good team throughout, but if you have Seattle available, you're struggling confidence-wise to pick somebody else, it's not crazy to take Seattle here. I think you have to consider Arizona, but watch out for them because they're the highest pick, right? I just want to summarize the Survivor picks. You could think about going on Arizona. I like the Chargers because you'd want to use them this week against Carolina, so you don't have to use them again. Indianapolis is a good pick over the Jets. That's an obvious pick. You might want to save Indianapolis for later, and Seattle would be the 4th one to consider.
All right. So are you saying that Seattle is your strongest play?
I like Seattle.
Okay, at -5.
I like Seattle at -6.5.
Okay.
With the line is 5. Anything under a touchdown, you got to go Seattle.
So are you going to sell points on that? All right. Let's
I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it at 5.
Go to Green Bay, New Orleans. So the Sunday night, Monday night games are definitely interesting games. They should be good games.
So do you want to talk about, before we get in here, because this is a really good matchup, right? And I think we have a lot of close matchups here. Do you want to go into the teaser thought for this week? Because it looks like it's lining up to be a good, like if you want some action on some of these games, it might be tough to pick because you have Green Bay, New Orleans, a great matchup, Kansas City, Baltimore coming up on Monday night. You have some big lines like Indianapolis, right, against the Jets. You want to feel a little more comfortable with it and tease it down. There's probably a good 5 or 6 teams that you could put in a parlay card or a teaser card.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't do a lot of straight bets. And even sometimes I'll go in and I'll look at placing one, but then I just can't help but parlay it with something. I just always have to increase my odds. So I play a lot of teasers, and you'll
play double-digit teams. You'll look for the big payout. Like put 12, $20 down and get a couple
12,
thousand on
13, 14 picks.
Yeah.
But $20 wins you $2,000. And you know, what am I putting out there? $20 a week?
$20 is $20.
$20 a week. But if you hit one,
pays for the whole season. And then some.
But like games like this are the perfect place to do it, I think, because if you have, 2 pretty competitive teams, I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. Do you really see like the Saints blowing out
no,
the Packers? I
think my point is to play. You might want to consider playing a multi-team teaser.
And then,
with some of the picks that we're giving you this week.
Yeah, like you said with Indy. I mean, do I like Indy at 11.5?
Yeah.
I mean, no. But if you can tease that down to a 6.5, yeah. So, and games like Green Bay, New Orleans, I mean, I would probably take Aaron Rodgers at -3 if you think it's going to be a 3-point game. But if you can get it at, -8 or 9.
So what's the injury situation coming into the New Orleans game?
Well, both of these teams are going to be without their number one, most likely. I'm not sure if Devontae Adams has been ruled out officially, but Michael Thomas has. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're kind of like equally suited teams. They're both going to be without their number one guy.
He's doubtful.
I would take, yeah.
Devontae Adams is doubtful, so that's the Friday status. He's not seen it practice.
So I do think New Orleans has a pretty good run defense. So that worries me a little bit about it, but my pick would definitely be Green Bay to at least keep it close. I mean, I'll take the points in Aaron Rodgers all day.
I mean, it's almost like people overlook the fact that Michael Thomas wasn't playing against the Raiders because a lot of people like New Orleans. I think you definitely have to take that into account if he's not playing here against Green Bay, who looks like the best team in the NFC next to Seattle, right? I think so far you got Green Bay and Seattle looking like the best teams in the NFC.
I mean, I worry a little bit about Green Bay because if Devontae Adams doesn't play, then who do they have? But I think they have a few more options at least. Like New Orleans doesn't really have much. No,
well, they have
Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith.
Yeah, and Emmanuel Sanders hasn't done anything. He's going to need to step up there.
And Jared Cook.
Yeah, so they're going to beat you with the running game if they get Kamara going. Passing to Kamara, the Kamara game, let's call it, because they'll pass and throw and run the ball with him. If Michael Thomas was playing here, I'd be all over New Orleans. Coming back home after they lost that game on Monday night, I think a short week. But I don't know how you can take them without Michael Thomas. It's like a different team. Drew Brees is another guy that's in his 40s, right?
I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is on a tear this year. So
yeah, I don't know how you can go against Green Bay and have a good feeling about it.
All right. So who would your pick be? Green Bay?
I would take Green Bay just because I can't get over the fact that Michael Thomas is out.
Yeah. And then, all right, last game is Kansas City at Baltimore. And this is another very similar game there. I mean, 2 of the best teams going up against each other. They're both 2-0. Somebody's going to leave the stadium with a loss. And I have to take the points there and take Kansas City.
All right, we're on the same page on this one. I just don't know how you can, at this point, after they've won the Super Bowl, they've looked pretty good. They struggled last week and came back and got the win. I don't know how you can go against Kansas City, especially if they want to give you more than a field goal against anybody. If they're on the road.
Kansas City has won both. Jesus.
Hey, you caught it again. What's going on over there?
Because I know it's slowly sliding out the whole time. I know it won't grip it good enough.
You can't get a good grip on
it. Kansas City has won both of the games they've played against Lamar Jackson. I think you said Andy Reid is like 4-1 against.
Don't be using my stats. Come on.
The Ravens.
I think you said I'm not going to tell you my stats anymore if you're going to go use them on the podcast.
And Lamar has, in the big games, he's kind of come up short. So,
I say you take the points here. You're getting over a field goal. It's 3.5 points. Baltimore has not done well against Kansas City. Especially Reed has the head up on Harbaugh. He's won the last 4 times they've played against each other.
Had to get that in there. Again.
He's 4-1 all time against Harbaugh and has won the last 4. But also Reed against former staffers is 12-6. So he has a good record of going against people who have been on his coaching staff in the past.
And we'll also say that the reason that the Chiefs struggled a little bit last week with the Chargers was because they were too busy looking ahead to the big game coming up this week.
Hey, would it be like Ron Burgundy if I wrote a fake stat down here on my paper? Would you like sneak it and read it as your own? Like I'm just going to try that next podcast when I write some.
Well, if you weren't going to get that point out there, I figured I'd get it out there. It was a good point.
No, it's okay because we joked around about me stealing your stuff sometimes, but so I just felt like I would do it on camera. Bust your stones.
All right. So final thoughts on week 3.
Week 3, I feel like tends to be a tough week every year.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like week 3 crazy things happen. I don't see so many crazy things, but you had a lot of favorites win last week.
Well, remember when I played the card, I was like, oh my God, it's all favorites down the line. I shouldn't even bother to play this.
Yeah, I would just be careful.
I think we're getting there. I think we got a better feel for what these teams are, and this week will just bring more perspective. And I feel pretty good about it.
I just keep looking at Washington and thinking that defensive line is going to shred Cleveland and kill Baker Mayfield. And the line's so big. So I know Washington's not that great, but
they beat the Eagles.
They did beat the Eagles, but Cleveland's not that good. I last year I was all on the Cleveland bandwagon. Got about halfway through the season. I'm like, they still haven't proven anything. And I refuse to go on Cleveland if they bring Joe Montana back from retirement and he's throwing the ball 80 yards down the field. I would not play Cleveland until they prove that they can win games consistently. I'm talking like 4 or 5 games in a row.
All right.
So Washington. I love it. Play the money line. Definitely take the points.
That's a strong take, Steve. Strong take.
I know. I would be the only one on Washington, but.
Well, you better put some money on the money line if you feel that good about it. All right. Well, that'll do it for us for week 3.
It's a wrap.